Kenny Ray Carter is a retired basketball player who now runs a small sports shop for a living. One day, he rushes to watch a basketball match between Richmond High School and St. Francis. It turns out his son Damien plays for St. Francis. After a while, the match begins. But it's clear that the Richmond players are not well experienced. They're outmatched and outmuscled in every single department, causing them to trail by several points. Hence, as the match is about to end, they start an argument, because of which the referee calls off the match. However, since St. Francis was leading, they are declared the winners. Later, Carter visits the coach of Richmond, Bruce, who turns out to be his good friend. Here we get to know that Carter himself graduated from Richmond High School, where he was a champion basketball player. As the two talk, Bruce reveals that he's going to retire soon, hence he wants Carter to take his position. At first, the latter refuses, saying he doesn't have much time. But when he sees the players bickering among themselves, he agrees. The next day, while driving Damien to school, Carter reveals that he's going to be the head coach of Richmond. The teenager obviously dislikes the idea, as Richmond is regarded as a bad school. In response, Carter states that he wants to help the boys and make them professionals. Following this, he heads to his first day at work. At first, he meets with Richmond High School's principal, Mrs. Garrison, and the two have a brief chat about the student's future. Then, Carter brings out a document and asks her to print 25 copies of it. In the next scene, Carter finally arrives at the school gym where he meets the basketball players. He introduces himself as their new head coach, but no one listens to him. Instead, they just make fun of his appearance and speaking style. Realizing that the players are rude and disrespectful, Carter decides to implement some new rules. From today, everyone should use the term "sir" to address each other as a sign of respect. Moreover, all the students must attend their classes and maintain a minimum of 2.3 GPA. They must also wear a suit and tie on game days as a sign of professionalism. Saying all this, Carter hands them all a contract, asking them to sign it. The ones who don't will not be allowed to participate in the games. Hearing all this, one of the players named Timo Cruz gets enraged and tries to punch Carter. However, he's easily subdued and pushed into the wall. Cruz mentions that teachers are not allowed to put hands on their students, but Carter says, "I am your basketball coach." After this, he asks the remaining players if anyone wants to leave. Two of them leave immediately, and the team's captain, Kenyon Stone, reveals that the two were their best players. Surprisingly, Carter is not bothered. Instead, he says that they will do just fine. Then, the training finally begins. Carter makes all of them perform intense physical exercise. He believes that a player cannot reach their fullest potential if their body doesn't support them. Carter also implements some rules where the players will be punished if they arrive late to training. Just 30 minutes late will result in 250 push-ups. The following day, a player named Junior Battle arrives late, so Carter immediately punishes him with 250 push-ups. Battle tries to argue with the coach, but Carter puts him in his place by ordering him to do 500 push-ups now. Later that day, Carter meets with the parents of the players and informs them about the rules and the contract they should sign. Most of the parents are not happy, as they believe that the contract is ridiculous, but Carter reassures them that it's for their son's own good. At home, while Carter is working on something, Damien arrives there and hands him a contract. He pleads that he also wants to get admitted into Richmond High School and learn from his father. As expected, Carter denies the request, as St. Francis is one of the best high schools in the city. But to his dismay, Damien reveals that he's already quit that school. He then tells his father that he will fulfill all the clauses in the contract. For instance, he will maintain a 2.3 GPA. After a lot of convincing, Carter agrees, but only on the condition that Damien maintains a 3.7 GPA. The next day, Damien arrives at his new school and immediately heads to the gym after finishing his classes. Unfortunately, he is late. So Carter punishes him with excruciatingly painful exercises. After this, Carter starts teaching them various techniques of defense and pressing. However, his way is a bit special. He gives the name of his sisters to each move he likes, like Anna is for the straight man-to-man pressure defense, Delilah is for the trap defense, and Linda is for the pick-and-roll offense. In the next scene, the game season officially starts and Richmond is pitted against Hercules. Carter motivates all his players and tells them to give their best. In the first half, Richmond does play well, but it's not enough to gain the lead. Hence, in the timeout, Carter gathers everyone and tells them to look at the Hercules players, who look terribly tired. He then asks his players if they are tired, and everyone answers with a no. Carter reveals that it's because their endurance has been increased due to the intense exercise sessions. Soon, the match resumes, and Team Richmond takes advantage of their physical superiority. They score several points in a matter of minutes, and eventually win the game. Cruz, who's also watching the game, is left in utter disbelief at how his team has become. The following day, Carter gathers all the players and congratulates them on their first win. However, he also chastises them for the mistakes they made during the match. In order to improve on them, he decides to add practice sessions at 6 o'clock in the morning. Furthermore, each player will have to do free throws every day until they learn the fundamentals. Just then, Cruz arrives at the gym and tells Carter that he wants to start playing again. Now he's willing to do anything to rejoin the team. Unfortunately, Carter gives him a near impossible task of doing 2,500 push-ups before Friday. All the players are shocked at the insane task, but Cruz decides to comply without saying a word. Some hours pass by, but he's still at it. Carter tries to test his resolve by asking him to give up, but Cruz continues working hard. The next day, Carter visits Principal Garrison and mentions that he hasn't received the academic reports of any of the players. It was clearly mentioned in the contract that if they don't pass their tests, they cannot play. Principal Garrison appears to be annoyed at the idea, but nonetheless, she mentions that she will look into it. In the next scene, after an intense practice session, Carter tells all the players to go home and rest, as tomorrow is an important match for them. He then approaches Cruz and tells him that he has failed the task. He didn't manage to complete 2,500 push-ups, which means that he won't be allowed back in the team. Hearing this, the other players become upset and they decide to do push-ups on behalf of their crews. Although they're rebelling, Carter seems to be happy as the players have finally understood the importance of unity. So he eventually decides to reinstate Cruz back in the team. The next day, Richmond plays the second match and wins with the help of Cruz, who seems to be an expert in scoring three-pointers. In the coming weeks, they win more matches without any defeats. In this way, Team Richmond starts becoming stronger by the day, but they also become arrogant. They often mock their rivals and even hurl obscenities at them. This obviously doesn't sit with Carter, so he assembles everyone in the gym and gives a long lecture about the importance of discipline and ethics. Carter explains that winning is not the only important thing in sports. It's also to earn others' respect and love. As a punishment, he makes everyone do 500 push-ups. That day, Carter decides to visit every class personally and inspect how his players are doing. Unfortunately, he learns that one of the players, Junior Battle, hasn't even come to class for the last 3 months. This enrages Carter, as for him, education is the most valuable asset one can have. So that evening in the gym, he chastises all the players and warns them that if they don't maintain good marks, they'll be excluded from the team. To make a statement, he suspends Junior Battle indefinitely. The latter tries to explain his innocence, but to no avail. That night, while Carter is at his shop, Junior Battle's mom arrives there. She profusely apologizes for her son's actions, but Carter insists on hearing this from Junior himself. When the teenager says sorry, Carter forgives him and reinstates him back into the team. The next day is the final of the Bay Hill tournament. Richmond is pitted against the Cougars, a team which they've never defeated. Fortunately, with the unity, skill, and perseverance taught by Carter, Richmond plays really well and manages to win the game in the last second. Shortly after, Carter is handed over the trophy and the entire team celebrates with joy. That night, Carter finally gets the results of the players, but it's not what he had expected. all of the students have failed miserably, and some of them have even got 0. Enraged, he closes the gym and orders his team to meet him in the library. There, he's brought 3 teachers who will help the players get better marks in their tests. Carter tells them that unless and until they meet all the terms and conditions of the contract, the gym will remain closed. The next day, the basketball session starts, but Carter cancels the first match, making all the players unhappy. For now, he just wants them to focus on their studies. A few days later, the second match also gets canceled, and because of this, Carter starts getting a lot of hate in the public. Even the local news outlets start covering the topic. One day, Carter approaches his students and explains why he's doing all this. He says that in this city, schoolboys are either destined to become a player or a criminal. The system is designed that way. However, if they study hard and get good grades, there's a chance that they can get enrolled in good colleges and have a future for themselves. Unfortunately, the next day, Carter gets called to a meeting where the school principal and other representatives are present. They claim that the media has been harassing them due to their decision to close the gym. However, Carter is still adamant on continuing with his decision. He even says that if they overturn it, he will resign for good. The principal and some others agree with him, but sadly, most of them don't. As a result, the gym is reopened, and Carter angrily storms out of the room. In the next scene, he heads to the gym to collect his belongings, only to find all the players studying there. They refuse to play until and unless they give their exams and pass. Seeing them working so hard, Carter becomes happy. He also changes his mind and decides to stay and help them. After a few days, the examinations finally arrive, and all the players give their best. Fortunately, all of them pass with excellent grades. Carter delivers the good news to them, making them ecstatic. Now, with each of the team members passing their exams, they again resume playing basketball. They beat several teams one after another, despite not having practiced for over a month. One day, Carter gathers everyone in his office and delivers some good news. Richmond has been selected to participate in the state tournament. For their first match, they'll be playing their rivals, St. Francis. The entire team is pumped up, ready to give it their all. The next morning, the all-important match begins. Both the teams seem to have prepared well as they go back and forth during the entire match. Tempers also start flaring when they get into an argument. However, at the end of the match, St. Francis manages to win by a mere 2 points. Despite this, Carter is very proud of his team. He mentions that they played with unity, passion, and respect, something which is very useful to prosper in life. He also thanks them for being wonderful kids who have listened to each other and every one of his instructions. Later, when the entire team returns to their school, they're given a monstrous welcome by the students. Everyone is proud that Richmond finally made it to the state level.